She's back. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, wonderful people, to In This Very Moment. I'm Cindy James, and in this very moment, I'm going to be sharing the power of being 100% miserable. Have you been 100% miserable? I've been 100% miserable in the last couple weeks as well. The subtitle of the In This Very Moment is also Tales of Getting COVID in Paris. There you go. Thank you, COVID. Sponsored by the worldwide pandemic. We have a little technical difficulties graphic if we need it. Jen, could you put that up and mute me a second? You can do. That happens when Cindy gets a coughing spasms, and we don't want to have you watch that if you don't want to, but it is a little bit miserable, not 100% miserable. There is this incredible quote from, if you know me, my favorite guy, Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba, that said, "It is natural that at times you feel 100% miserable." Aw, it is natural. I mean, it makes me a little angry too around with the awe, but it is natural that at times you feel 100% miserable. And this comes from the perspective of the infinite all that is God. Substitute whatever word works for you: God, Great Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, science, nature, love, goddess, wisdom, universe, snickerdoodle lady, whatever word works for you. Be sure that I, the infinite God, know everything. When everything goes wrong, the mind becomes helpless and has to rely on the heart. There are moments, or these are the moments, when you resign to God's will and rely solely on God, Great Spirit, Jesus, my help. If you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you get relief from your predicament. I am the ocean of love and compassion. I'm going to read that again and then let this come from the perspective of how you know the infinite divine. It is natural that at times you feel 100% miserable. Be sure that I know everything. When everything goes wrong, the mind becomes helpless and has to rely on the heart. These are the moments when you resign to my will and rely solely on my help. When you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you get relief from your predicament. I am the ocean of love and compassion. There's so much in this for us human beings, and specifically at this moment in time. I think every moment in time, but we're in this very moment, so we'll say specifically this very moment. I dare not neglect you. But Jen, could you put up the graphic? Jen, you could bring it back. Thank you, Jen, for that. I'm going on, people. I'm like a postman or a post person. Through rain or snow or COVID cough, I'm coming back onto the live stream, and we're going to make it freaking work. And this COVID, I will say this about COVID. I'm not letting COVID ruin my trip to Paris. I love Paris. I love France. Now, will I go back anytime soon? Maybe not. Do I have some PTSD? Yes. Do I need more healing? Yes. However, I will not let that spiky little virus destroy the experience that I had, which was exquisite, even when it was 100% miserable. And there was exquisite without the 100% miserable. And so much happened for me as a human being. All I can do now is still say thank you, although I'm a little bit mind-boggled about the whole experience, and I'm happy to be home. But when the mind becomes helpless, it has to rely on the heart. So here's how things went down for Cindy Lou across the pond. Flew into Paris with one of my dear, wonderful friends. Her and my grandmother were best friends, and we called each other's aunts, Aunt Helen. We weren't real aunts, it was friend aunts and all that kind of stuff. And we then met. We didn't meet. Well, I think I met when we were 14, but we met after my Aunt Helen left her body. My grandmother had already skedaddled, and my Aunt Helen really wanted us to get together. She knew that we would really enjoy being with each other. So we fulfilled that woman's dying wish to us and had lunch, met at her funeral, and then went to lunch. Quick cough now. Not a long one, not a technical difficulty one, just a quick one. And so we have been friends and comrades in the light for years now. And she is part of an artist group. She's an incredible artist. Oh my God. And we were going to Paris in 2020, but you know what happened in 2020? COVID stopped that. And then we were going to go in 2021, still not ready. So 2022, that was the ticket. We were going in June of 2022, which we did. And oh my God, those first few days were glorious. I mean, just the food, the people. Jen, difficult. Brave soldiers, anyone that's sticking with this live stream or in recording, I think you're getting some good karma relief. I think it's really good for your soul. If not, you're just being kind to me, and that's wonderful as well. I very much appreciate that. So Paris is great. Walking through the Museo de la Orangerie, I think I'm saying it right. The Orange Museum is what I called it. Looking at Monet's lily pads in 360-degree panorama and starting to take steps and feeling like every bone in my body was being crushed. The nerves were just firing. And I thought, oh my God, I'm prone to exaggeration and hyperbole. I love both of those words, even though they're the same thing. And I really just thought my whole spinal system was going to collapse in a fiery, painful haze, and I was going to die. And I did not die. I just thought, that's a museum for you. I'm getting a little 100% miserable moment because I don't want to cough. I haven't coughed like this in a while. And of course, why of course, once I'm doing a live stream, am I feeling that? I'm not going to say, of course. You know, there's a phrase a lot of people say, we say, oh, well, they didn't even give me anything. God forbid anyone pay attention to me. What are we saying? That's when I just said that, of course, it reminded me of its first cousin, God forbid. When we're using our words to say, God forbid someone give us what we need and want and attend to. We're using that great power and telling that infinite source to forbid it. It's like whoosh. There's a song by Jason Mraz. I love Jason Mraz. Listen to everything of his. He just is helping the world. He's helping me. He's helping you. He's helping everyone. And he says it's our God-forsaken right to be loved, loved, loved. In the first version of this song, I don't know, I think it might be I'm Yours, but one of his great songs. And I thought, that doesn't make sense to me. The God-forsaken right to be loved? God forsakes that right to be loved? Well, in some live versions, he says God intended right to be loved, loved, loved. But still the version you hear out and about is God forsaken. So I take that with a grain of God forbid, of course, kind of salt. Later that night, I started with the GI version of COVID. Oh my God. That was fun in a hotel room at France. Jen, cue the guy. I'm persevering. I've been talking about also something, the unstoppable power of softness. I'm saying that in me right now. The reason that I'm doing this right now and continuing to go on is the same energy that was with me when I was feeling like I was dying 10,000 deaths a couple weeks ago. Is that something deep within me just is not going to give up on love and healing and the power within us to transform anything, including disease, including war, including shame, including economic distortion and collapse. I'm going to call that the feminine principle, the unstoppable power of softness. And that is what I'm moving with today. And I hope that you can feel there is such great power and dignity in the humility of feeling terrible on some level of your mind or your body, but not letting it destroy your connection to your spirit, to your soul, and to the greater ideals of what's possible here on the planet. So that's why I'm coughing up a bronchial tube. Not really. I mean, that's really exaggeration. I'm just clearing the results of whatever from my body system. So in any event, I started with the GI stuff, and I had this little special thing. Again, it's narcissistic to think this is mine and special, is that one end doesn't come without the other end coming. So I have to have both going at the same time. And it's a delightful adventure in body fluids. And I mean, with the force that could, knock down or put a freight train off track. And that happened for a long period of time. And then the next morning, my dear friend went out to have breakfast, and I had simmered down. I tried to be as quiet as I could so I wouldn't wake her up during the night and as you go out. And while she was out having breakfast, it became 100% miserable. I could not stop. I have gotten the cyclical vomiting before. My mom, God bless her, she's not in the realm anymore with her body. I have been having this happen for years since I got mono when I was in high school, just the cyclical vomiting, blah, 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 and get so dehydrated you can't stop. And my mom, over the years, would attend me when it could be that strep got that, a high fever, a virus, or whatever. And she would take me into the hospital and say, knock her out. Knock her the F out. She wouldn't say that, my mom. I don't think my mom said that word very much. I remember hearing my dad say that word only once when we were younger. We're all in the Brady Bunch station wagon with the paneling on the side. And these are the days. There's no GPS. There's no MapQuest. I mean, there's maps. And we're coming home from someplace late at night. And we got lost, but the kind of lost where you've missed the exit on the turnpike and it's going to take like another 45 minutes or an hour. And I heard my dad yell the F word. Terrified me. I knew it was a bad word. I guess I'd heard it before. I don't know where I'd heard it. Probably on the playground in Catholic school. Nothing wrong with the Catholics, but we do know how to swear. We know how to do the things we're not supposed to do. I was with my stepdaughters yesterday, taking them back from camp, and the song Rich Girl from Hall & Oates came on. And in that song, there's a line that says, bitch girl. Now, I remember that as coming out in 6th or 7th grade for me. And the Catholic Church went apeshit nutso, and you were not allowed to listen to that song. That notes went home for parents, no emails back in the day. And I said to my stepdaughters, what do you think that did to us, kids? I sought that song out with a passion that was never before told, to listen to that bitch girl song. Anyhow, does anybody know what I was just talking about? Being 100% miserable. Well, anyway, I'm back in Paris. I text my friend. She comes back. We have to call the Paris ambulance, which is basically a glorified minivan. And I go via ambulance to the hospital. We don't think to ask what hospital. I end up going to a public assistance hospital. And what I've been saying is I'm not quite ready to talk about that experience. Not because, I've been saying it's PTSD, but not for me so much, but now I'm in Paris at a public assistance hospital. I'm not in Bangladesh. But what's happening to the staff and the humanity in there, I know that part of the reason, deep within my soul, I know part of the reason that I got COVID in Paris and that I was taken to that hospital was because the amount of the highest light healers on the planet that love me know me, were sending energy. Family and friends, whether they knew I had COVID or not, were sending so much love. It permeated that place. It permeated the people, the staff, the environment. And I've never experienced anything like it. I'm still processing what it was like to be a conduit for so much higher vibrational energy in a place that, in my mind, suffers. And, I could be wrong about the suffering, but I don't think so. This is the kind of place where, they were sweet as can be and wonderful to me, and they did their best. It's hard to get IVs in me. I had 3 different tries, blood all over myself. I was a bloody massacre, down my hands, all over my pants. Luckily, I was wearing my red and white polka dotted pajama pants when the paramedics picked me off the floor, which was Dominique and his friend, lovely people. And it was a little bit traumatizing that, because you don't go sit in a room on a gurney. You carry your IV into a waiting room, sitting in chairs next to everyone else holding their IV. There's now some people can hang their IV. And it doesn't matter what you have, broken bone, COVID, end stage heart disease, whatever it is, you're just all sitting right next to each other like that. And then once the COVID test comes positive, they take me, it's like, Cindy, come follow them holding my IV into the COVID positive waiting room with people with all sorts of things too that also have COVID. That went on for a while. And so another time for the rest of that story. It ensues that lots of medication later, the IVs did help to quelling that, and then being in this state there. And I remember wanting to die. Here is, if you haven't got the power of being 100% miserable yet, one of the great, powerful gifts of being 100% miserable is knowing that death is not bad. It is not. It at least completes this kind of body suffering. And there's this other wonderful quote from Meher Baba that says, "Neither seek death nor fear it." Well, I might have been seeking death. I certainly wasn't fearing it. People seem to have on the planet more of the fear of death than the seeking death. Seeking death seems to be a smaller percentage than the fearing death. But when you are feeling that miserable, from the depth of your soul that you can ride out of your body and that can go away. So as I was saying to my dear friend Marie that I wanted to die, she would say to me, I don't actually remember this, but she would say, "Cindy, you can't die. You're getting married next month. You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay." But that kind of, all that kind of stuff, not so good. One of the other great benefits of being 100% miserable is exactly from this quote. The mind has no choice but to rely on the heart. And that's when you pray for help. Doesn't matter who you are. You pray for something greater to love you and care for you. And you look into the eyes of those around you and you long from a place of loving for to be seen and to see and to receive that hope that we are more than our body too, and that we have power more than our body. And I love the rest of this quote. When you resign to what is and rely solely on the infinite, God, however you know that, dare not neglect you. Is that a crazy thing? I'm going to crunch my Ricola right now. I've grown to hate the taste of those things, but they work. God dare not neglect you. Dare not. Dare not. And you get relief from your predicament, which, by the way, I think predicament's a funny word. I guess the rampant nausea, vomiting, fever, body pain, shakes, mental craziness, all that kind of stuff, was my predicament. I always put an R, a separate R in that. I like to say predicament. Maybe that's more like Archie Bunker or back in the day, but I like predicament. So I get relief from your predicament. And God is the ocean of love and compassion. Well, that is just crazy great. And I will tell you that I received that ocean of love and compassion. And as hard as it was, and then my dear friend, a couple days later, started to feel poopy caca, got COVID. And we were then trying to take care of each other. We had to, there was no room at the inn. We had to change hotels. I had to change hotels 3 times. She had to change hotels twice. For a long story, I'm not going to tell now. However, everything was still orchestrated at what I would say a magical level to support us having that there. First of all, I'm not going to have COVID for my wedding. Mazel tov to me. She's not going to have COVID and give it to her husband, which wouldn't be so good for him. She bounced back faster than me. She never lost her sense of smell too. I got the sense of smell. I got the cough. I got the this and that. At the stomach, it was like, yay, because I want to get relief from my predicament. I want to give everything over to the greater. So once I could eat, once I was stumbling around Paris with a mask on, trying to find broth from a Japanese or Asian restaurant to bring back for my friend and for myself at that point, I couldn't taste any of it. Even when I was feeling half decent to eat at the end, couldn't taste any of it. The first thing that I smelled, because of course, smell is related to sense of taste, it was when I was in Charles de Gaulle Airport flying home, when I walked by the McDonald's in the Paris airport. That is the first thing I smelled, was a quarter pounder of cheese. Sense of humor. Very, very funny. Anywho, so I'm back now. I missed my honey bunny, my fiance, something terrible. But not in a sense of feeling not enough. Although certainly I would have had a team of people there if it made any kind of sense. It was like $3,000 fly over. And then what are you going to do? Get COVID with me in the hotel room? I mean, it wasn't going to work. If both of my friend and I said to our family members, if it's dire, then you can come over. But it never got dire, other than in my own mind, not in her own mind. But in the sense that we're so new into this, and I really did want to not die and come home and to continue our life together. I'm so, so grateful and blessed to be creating a new extended family in ways I couldn't have imagined before life. And so very happy to be home in that situation. And the other thing that I want to talk about before I bring this to completion or have another coughing spasm is that you get to know the parts of yourself that you're managing under the current when you have this 100% miserable. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's an acupuncturist and an amazing healer, and she treats a lot of people with COVID. And what she told me is that COVID, being a vascular disease, which I didn't know that, or maybe she described it in a different way, but I saw it like of the blood vessels, will actually then go to what it affects most are the systems that are already predisposed to some sort of weakness, which would make sense for me because back in the day with all the cyclical vomiting, even though I haven't had that forever, and the cough, because that still has been a thing. I joke that I'm like the coughing healer at times. And, but also from an emotional sense, what welled up in me were the things that I've been managing, the certain relationship losses that feel crippling to me that I manage and do a great job with, but then just rose from the bowels of hell of just the feeling of being separate. I mean, these issues that are our weaknesses that we manage are really come from our ego self. There's nothing wrong with our ego self. It's our sense of separateness. We need some separateness, I always say, so we don't drive off cliffs and we feed ourselves, but that sense of really being separate from the soul and everyone and everything and the greater causes us so much suffering. And so for the parts in me that I don't know that came up like still managing them. And so it's good to know what we're dealing with and get support for it. It's like it's always there. It's like people can't push your buttons unless you have a button. So in some sense, they're your healers because they find those buttons. And what I say those buttons are, or those weaknesses, or those wounds, or those places where we're not really aware of our connection to everyone and everything, is just like an electrical system having a short in it, or a cardiovascular system having plaque in it. It's a place that the energy doesn't flow. We feel it as emotional pain or physical pain, but from a true energetic sense, it's just a place that's not flowing in wholeness. So I had the opportunity to have some things come up to clear out and get incredible support and healing from my friend who I was with, from the healers that I was in touch with, from family, from friends, and still now, about how not just to manage, but to clear from a place of presence some of those very old, old wounds that can get triggered in this lifetime. Which will lead me to the very last point. When I talk about when this phrase came to me yesterday, working with my Galactic Force team, oh my gosh, we're now, it's billowing. Talk about the unstoppable power of softness. The Galactic Council Women All Genders Welcome is powering a new forum called the Power Plus app and programs that are coming soon. We're still working with the technology gods, with Google's approved the app, but Apple has more hoops to jump through. And I like hoops. I'll jump through hoops. Hula hoops are fun. I mean, we'll do that. But that unstoppable power of softness, feeling like the feminine principle of nurturing, moving no matter what happens. And I'm going to talk about like the functions of a female body. The PMS or menopause gets such a bad rap from women as well as anyone else. Like, oh, are you PMSing? Or she's just going through menopause. She's a crazy bitch and all that kind of stuff. But it's the same healing, cleansing system of being 100% miserable. Because what I learned is that when my body was going through those phases of the menstrual cycle and the week before, and the feelings would build, those feelings were already in me. It's not created by the hormones. It's highlighted by the hormones so that I, in my consciousness, can see the light and let it go. That's why in many Native cultures, they revere that time for women, that they can clear not just the emotions, but physically through the body. And menopause is like some great big chock full cleansing so that we can clear and just live from that place of the wise woman, the woman that has gone through all those cycles, whether she's created physical life in her body or not. We are so part of being in tune with the tides and the moons and the bringing and the nurturing of life. And it is an unstoppable power of the softness of a woman that can feel. It seems like a paradox, but all through this experience in Paris, including my 15-hour transatlantic trip back once I had finished my quarantine, isolation, 10 days, all that kind of stuff, which I was still tired as all get out. Deep within me, pulsating like a heartbeat, even though it might be some PVCs or PACs, or might skip a beat, or it might rush, or might get slow, pulsating like a heart, a relentless heart, is I am going to take care of myself, for myself and for everyone. There is not, deep within my soul, I know that each and every one of us have so much to contribute to the planetary upliftment. That despite the wars that are going on, the economic collapse, the random acts of violence, the meanness, the shames, the hopelessness, the helplessness that many of us feel at times on so many levels of our life, that this is clearing. It is coming up to clear what we've been managing has been holding us back from our full unstoppable power of not just softness, but of strength. And so I'm going to conclude with a poem from Rumi. If you do not have this specific book, The Illuminated Rumi, Cindy Lou recommends getting it, ordering it, immersing yourself in it. Rumi was a 13th or 14th century poet. I never know 1300s or the 14th century. I don't know how it works. I never will. And that's okay. I can live a long, happy life like that. I bought this book in 2004 at a Barnes & Noble in Seattle before my younger brother Stephen's wedding. Stephen has skedaddled, as many of you know. And I bought it with another book by the poet Hafiz. I don't think they were at the exact same time, but it's still the 13th, 14th century confusion for me. And they were both what is called perfect masters, meaning they came to the point of being fully conscious of their divinity. I mean, how great is that? That's what we're all going for, by the way, to be fully conscious of our divinity and live from that place. I first heard this poem before that, though. The reason why I bought the book is because a dear friend of mine now, who started a healing art school with her husband, a healing art school called Inner Source Healing, back in the day that I was a part of for decade plus, more, I don't know how many years, 18 years, many years, and still part of energetically in my heart. The woman Marlene, read this poem. And when I thought about the commonality, and all of us did, I mean, it's not something that I just discovered, about the human condition, it's something that I think we need to remind ourselves about, is that the power of being 100% miserable is to clear us out for new delights. Because we've just been stuck before. This is called The Guest House by Rumi. And you can look this up on the internet, but most versions of this do not include the end. And I think it's so beautiful. These are the translations and commentaries by Coleman Barks. He's like a guy that has done so much of Rumi. And illuminations, I love that, not illustrations, illuminations by Michael Green. They are inspired illuminations. So boys and girls and children and adults and all gender identifications, let yourself receive this wisdom from the poet Rumi in this moment in time, for you, for me, and for us all in this very moment. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a meanness, a depression. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and attend them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Welcome difficulty. Learn the alchemy true human beings know. The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door opens. Welcome difficulty as a familiar comrade. Joke with torment brought by the friend. Sorrows are the rags of old clothes and jackets that serve to cover, and then are taken off. That undressing and the beautiful naked body underneath is the sweetness that comes after grief. We're all moving to that sweetness that comes after grief. I'm feeling it right now. I know that in many instances of your life, you're feeling it right now. And that it's time for us to attend with lightness and give over to something greater, that which torments us. To accept it as a momentary visitor, clearing us out from the dis-ease and the delusion of being separateness, and bringing us into the eternal moment, in this very moment where we have the same power that created the heavens and the earth. And when we forget it, we can rely on our heart and give everything to God, and God dare not neglect us, and we get relief from our predicament. Here's for relief from our predicament and new delights for all of us. Keep soft, keep being powerful, keep being your unstoppable, loving self who knows there's more. Love and blessings, dear wonderful people. Mwah.